I always wanted to be a child star, and I think time's starting to run out, so I better do it now. It's now or never. So my little godson's always like, "Well, you're a kid." I'm like, "You're right. I am a kid. I'm never," because he doesn't want to grow up. So he's like, "Well, you didn't grow up." I'm like, "Very good point. Valid point, Oscar. Don't grow up."
See, so you're a child star to him.
Yeah, I really am. I really am.
So
Oh,
before we hit the record button, I want to just share this because Gab has a really good attitude that I want to share, and it does tie into using humor to find just basically deal with crap because we have a lot of crap in the world and in our own lives, depending on where you're at in life, what you've got going on. Humor, I'm not saying humor takes it away, but it definitely helps you put on a different lens to look through it and get you through the moment, through the day. We were talking about everything from menopause to an article I read earlier about fascism to what's happening with government. And I was going in a dark place. And Gab reminded me of something important. And what she uses is dealing with life in the way of what can you do personally. And what Gab is doing is helping to spread positivity and humor. And that's what she can do. That's what she can control. That is what she's doing. Gab, do you want to just share a little bit about that and how you're give us an update about what you're doing? So, how you are doing that? You're putting out good stuff in the world to help counter the crap that's out there, to help you get through your day, to help other people get through their days.
yeah, I mean, there's so much of the other on the internet, right? There's so much of, we gotta worry, this is bad, the world's over. And I'm just like, well, maybe we need a little balance. Maybe we need a little bit of like, okay, like I've been through some really horrible stuff in my life and I'm still here and I still have a smile on my face. So let's see what we can do today and let's see how we can get through it. But like I was very lucky to have a mom and dad who always found humor in the worst moments of our life. So that was sort of like, I almost think like my family's superpower is we kept the laughter during any bad situation. And you were talking about not liking practical jokes, and it just immediately made me think of my father, who was the king of practical jokes, to the point that the day he was diagnosed with aggressive bladder cancer, I mean, we didn't know it was coming. He went in for a kidney stone removal. The doctors tell us not kidney stones, really bad. My father's brought into the room. First time in my life I've ever seen the man scared. He's visibly shaking. He's like, "Did they tell you?" We're like, "Yeah, we know, Dad." And we all have this moment, and now we have to leave the room. Everyone has left the room. I'm the last one walking out. My father stops me, pulls me back, and tells me that I need to go to the house because he has a $500,000 in cash in his closet and he wants me to have it, not the other siblings, just me, because I'm the only one that he believes has the talent and I could use this money for good. And I'm like, "Dad, please, I don't think we should talk about this right now, Dad. Like, I don't." And he's like, "No, honey, you need to do this. You need to take this money. I want you to have it. You're the only one who will do something good with this money." And so I was like, I didn't want to upset him. So I'm like, "Okay, Dad, I'll take the money. I'll take the money." And I start walking out the door and he starts screaming for my siblings. He's like, "Your sister's willing to take all your inheritance because she thinks she's better than you guys." Literally, he did a freaking practical joke on the worst day of his life to make sure I wasn't scared, to make sure I knew that, okay, it's still going to be silly. No matter if we have this scary journey ahead of us, we're still going to laugh and be as crazy as we've ever been. And I think that has helped me be resilient throughout these years. And I'm in a really good place for the first time in my life mentally. And so I have extra to give. I've never had that extra. I've always been the one who's just like, "Oh, please, enough." And now I'm sort of like, no, man, like I can stay calm and I can try to make people laugh and not be taken down by how scary everything is right now. So that's sort of my motto in 2024. This is my year, baby.
I love everything that you just said. And I love like, so in my family, we weren't like that, but I will say my grandmother lived with us who's Irish. And I don't even think she realized how funny she was at times. It was that dry Irish, wit. And I mean, I loved teasing her. So there was humor there, but not as much as I think would have been helpful, but there was a lot there when we needed it. And I love that example. Like, how amazing is that? That is showing a perfect example of using humor, and maybe it even helped him in that moment, but definitely helped you not be as scared, which is great. And I also want to acknowledge you for saying, I love what you just said. You have extra right now to give. So, because I remember last time we met, like, I feel like every time I'm talking to you now, I'm like, I don't know, I'm not in a good place. I'm not in a good place. But I love what you're saying. Like you were there before, but you're in a great place now because of your therapist, because of all the great stuff that's happening in your life that you're making happen, that you're doing. So you can say, you know what, Janine, I got some words for you because I don't want to burden you when I am saying this, but yet I know you always greet it with a great attitude. And I don't want to be an alarmist. And like I said to you, I'm just worrying myself these days, and I don't want to get to that place where I'm the alarmist. I'm able to pull myself back, thankfully, and say, okay, I'm going to do some laughter yoga. This is going to make me feel better. Or I'm going to put my head down and keep going through the day. I'm going to plan that next comedy show or, whatever. But it's getting harder. So I appreciate what you're saying, because people who are in my place right now who are struggling a little bit need someone like you who's like, I got light to shine.
Yeah. I hope that. I hope that that is what you take. Because I've been you, right? And I mean, I always make that joke actually about you and Laugh to Live, because I made it at that the place we did that where we're like the day center, where I was like, hey guys, I saw some of you like kind of looking at Janine like hippy dippy laughter yoga. What the heck is this? And I've been in that place where if a lady came out and was like, we're gonna go hee, and I'm literally in the grips of my trauma and depression, and you fucking want me to do that, I would want to kill you, Janine. I'm gonna keep it real. But when I'm in a good place and I can breathe and be present, laughter yoga is the greatest thing that I've ever experienced. Like it calms me down. I freaking love it. It's deep breathing in a way that I can do because I know how to go hee ha ha. It's not like more complicated than I can understand. And it's freaking awesome. But yes, I have. So like I try to like now when I'm talking in a mental health setting to be like, hey, I'm gonna come off as Buddy the Elf about life right now. I wasn't always like this. Literally, this is the first time in my adult life I've ever felt like this. Like, it's the first time I actually love being here. I want more of it. You know what I mean? But I'm also content. Whatever happens, happens. Like, I can't live in a state of panic. But one of the things my therapist did, and what I'm hearing is like, we do parts work, meaning there's all these different parts of yourself that like almost take the lead of your life. And when you have PTSD or like a protector part of you, and it sounds like that part of you is like overcharged right now. And I know you're taking care of your parents and they're older. So I think you're already heightened because you have to be taking care of them. So now you're going to take care of Scranton and you're going to clean the litter. And wait, fascism, no freedom of speech. I'm Janine and I fight for rights, because that part is activated right now, Janine. It's not your fault, man. I've been there when I was taking care of my mom. That's all I wanted to do. I was like Wolverine fighting every social justice cause because that's where I was living. So like, I'm not scared for you. It makes total sense you're in this place right now. I just want for your sake for you to just be able to go take a walk, and maybe you don't have to plug every time. Maybe every time it doesn't have to be about saving Scranton. Sometimes it's just saving Janine, you know?
Okay, I love that. I'm like Norma Ray wearing a cape and Wolverine mixed into like I love that as a cartoon.
My
I
therapist
want
wants me to
to.
become a life coach. She's like, I think we're getting to the point where you should be a life coach. I want you to do hour play dates with kids and get them pumped up. I'm like, okay, I think I get certified, but we'll talk about
Yeah, you
it.
can definitely pump people up. That's for damn sure. And I should say just so and my parents are I'm blessed that they're still very healthy and active, but to what Gab's saying is a protector role, living right next door. So as they need things, yeah, and getting them, prepared for the next phase of life and all that stuff. So no matter how their day is going, and thankfully, like I said, they're still healthy. It's
Yeah.
where my mind is at. You're absolutely right. Where I am in that protector mode, where I'm laying in bed at night worrying like, not to sound whatever, but like, oh my gosh, I hope they live for however many more years. And I mean, I'm having these thoughts and worrying about like, them being comfortable, as the steps, there's too many steps in the house, like that kind of stuff is on my mind. So you're absolutely right. Protector mode. It's not, and I'm not, mom doesn't listen to every episode. Hey mom, if you are listening, don't worry. You're not causing me stress. It's me.
You're
But like
great,
you could,
Mom.
she's wonderful. I love her. I love my dad. But like you do because you want to help, but it is becoming stronger for me. And as I get older, even worrying about myself, because you do read about people who are young getting different illnesses. So you're right. That protector is really in place. And I have always hated litter, but you're right. I'm out there now where it's like, oh my God, I wish I could pick it all up, but I don't have a big enough bag.
It's exactly, that's all that's happening, man. And it's good. It's fine. It's okay.
I love
You're
what you
asking
said
me.
about the part though, like the parts therapy, because that is just so interesting because it's kind of like, I'll compare it to, I hate to do this, but like with social media, like with the loudest voice. So it's like in your body or your mind, whatever is the loudest part is what you have to give attention to because you can't ignore it. So that's really interesting.
And so when I said to my therapist come 2024, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. It feels like something happened on New Year's Eve where someone took my brain, took a big rag, cleaned it like a bowling ball, set it back in my brain. I just feel like the most me since I was a kid. I'm calm in a way I've never been. Like I can, like things have come up and I just take it one grain at a time. And she's like, because you're finally not in a part. Your essence is taken over. You're just Gab. And it's been amazing. And I'm having such a blast being with myself. I haven't seen her for a while. You know what I mean? I keep going back to this poem. Like it was a school assignment I had to write and you had to put your name like Gab and then just do a sentence about yourself with like each letter. And literally like G, gorgeous and gregarious. A, always trying hard and achieving. B, like I freaking loved myself when I was little. And I'm like, yeah, and I should still love myself. I'm the best Gab Bonesso there is. Let's do this 2024. So that's sort of just been my vibe. I mean, Josh was not starting the year in that vibe. And I was like, Josh, this is it, baby. 2024, it's gonna be the best year ever. And now literally he made our new stickers, the best year ever. He's like, Gab, you're right. We haven't had one bad show. I mean, every show has been great this year. You're right. Like, people are just around me like, Gab, you're right. This is 2024, baby. I'm like, I'm telling you, got to bring those vibes. You got to bring them.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's not easy. Like, let's not
No,
like the people, it's not easy. And so
it's taken
again,
me
to
my
your
whole life to get here. It's
yeah.
taken a miserable adult life to finally be like, I love it here. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
and to your point before, because I've seen those faces, like you mentioned the counseling center where we were at. There's someone like looking at me like, you want me to do clap my hands and go ho ho ha, like that's stupid, that's ridiculous. And I used to take it personally or whatever. And I had someone who life coach years ago. She's like, Janine, what you're putting out is good. If someone doesn't choose to pick it up, it doesn't mean something that you have to internalize or say that you're terrible. They're not in the place to pick it up that day. So to your point, like we could say this, but someone listening might be like, screw you. I can't have positive vibes today. Okay. So maybe tomorrow though. But like to
Yeah.
your point, if you, I do believe strongly in the affirmations and the, not just affirmations, but the Ford quote and whether we think of him or whether it's really his quote, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. I do believe that's pretty strong, because if we set out with like, this is going to be a terrible day, or I'm going to this party later, I don't want to go. Because if you go in with that attitude, unless someone greets you and like hands you a bag of money or like something that you love, you're like, oh, I love this party. You kind of have to go in at least with an open mind or say, you know what, this will be good and try to picture one thing that's going to happen or that you can make happen that's good. I do believe in that. And I want to say, I'm starting to get a little more into this idea of manifesting things. I'm reading a little bit more about it. I went to this crystal bowl thing a couple weeks back, and I feel like it just kind of opened things up. I got some good vibes from that. And then changing where my IRA was at, I'm with this Megan Alpert, Joy World. She was on about a month ago. I moved my money over with her, and I love what she's doing because she's making me think differently about my money. And it's just like this idea of manifesting and just thinking differently. So I do feel things are changing, but I had to hear that and I had to do something about it. And now trying to stay positive is where I'm struggling. Freely admit that.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like you're taking steps in the right direction. And I mean, I am very positive, but I still have bad days. And in the old days, a bad day would lead to rumination, the stuck points of me being alone. I have no one in my corner. And now a bad day is literally like, oh, bad days happen. You know what I mean? Like I am not taken down by a bad day. Like everything's going wrong. I laugh at everything going wrong now instead of being like, see, the world hates me. Oh, like it's not like that anymore. It's just like, oh well, drop some coffee on the floor, clean it up. What a crazy start to the day. Oh, ants. I hate ants. Well, I guess I gotta take care of the ants. It's not the end of the world. I can take care of ants. Like I've lived through so much that when I think about the stuff that I was letting myself live in fear of, it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, let alone like the caregiving I did for my mother. I mean, there were times where heart surgeons were like, are you a doctor? Because I learned that much about my mother's medical health to be on it for her. And it's like, well, if you could do that for your mom, man. You could do that to promote an album for you. How about that? It's just like putting that kind of effort into things that I want to do for me, or whatever. Like I look at my past and I'm like, I'm a lot stronger than I've ever given myself credit for. So let's just own that energy.
Yeah, and you've said it, I think I heard you say it at least twice, and I think that's important, resilience. And when we were talking before I hit the record button and I was in that place of, but Cab, I mean, the world, it's, oh, how do you do? And like you said, you've greeted other things that you've had. Your mother was sick and you got through it. All these things that you got through, and you're ready to just greet them and go, okay, I'm going to face it and get through my day. And again, that's not always easy to do. But I remember when I was taking this positive psychology course years ago online, that was a key, that was a whole chapter, resilience. And I think it takes a little time to build that up. And so the one thing that, I mean, my question I want to get into then about humor too. I think we've talked about this before, where people who've had more struggles and what they can write about and talk about their humor versus I joke like, poor me, my life's been too easy,
Right.
and it's like, not that I was born with I mean, there are people with much easier lives, but I've had a relatively easy life. I haven't had major issues, illness or living on the street, living in a car. I haven't been discriminated against. So other than, what women
Be a
face, which
woman.
is, I mean, being a woman, that's a thing, people, that's still real. But I mean, otherwise, I can't say that I've been in any major hardships. And it's like, resilience, I feel like and I want to get to, and I don't know what my question is, and I'm sorry, but like, I feel like when you've been through so much, like someone like you have, you're not sitting here worrying, like, because you're like, I know how tough I am. Or now maybe there are days you don't feel that way, but you feel that now, you know how tough you are.
Now I
So I
feel that
guess
way.
what I want to say is for folks who like, I'm not saying life is easy for me. We all have challenges, but like, how do you get that resilience? And how do you say, I'm going to get through this? Or is it just a practice, like a mantra?
Well, I have to say, like, I never even considered myself resilient until I was put on a list as one of the top 100 speakers for resilience. And I was like, oh, resilient. Huh. I guess, geez, I guess that is what I am, because I'm still here after everything and these diagnoses that have taken people out, and I'm still here. Shit, I am resilient. And then through my therapy with my current therapist, when she would, fear the uncertainty, or why are you scared, or what's really going on inside, and like having a feelings chart, knowing what I'm feeling rather than letting my brain take control over things, and then taking assessment of what's happened, and I'm like, holy God, I am strong. I can do anything. I can't believe I was living in fear of stink bugs when I helped my father battle cancer, my mother battle vascular disease, my brother battle addiction, my siblings battle mental health, including myself. Like, my best friend has multiple forms of cancer in her body, and she goes every day and never stops. Like, no, I am surrounded by strength and resilience. I actually had a next door neighbor who I adored. He passed away during the pandemic. And he just incredible guy, lived next door to me my whole life. He had 3 daughters. I was friends with all three, but he and I were always pals. Like, even when I was in high school, he just was like, Gab, you're smart, you're funny. Always encouraged me when I wasn't living up to, everyone's expect. I mean, I was like in AP classes, honors classes, a high school achieved athlete, a well-known musician in my community. Like, for me to kind of be a comedian who lives at home with their mom, I got a lot of judgment in my early days, and I don't want to get emotional. This guy never judged me. He knew, like, hey, I get it. You're working through some stuff. Your dad died. I'm going to be here for you. Amazing man. Anyway, when he was about 64, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. His job forced him into early retirement. MFR was like, okay, force me into early retirement. I'm going to drive for Uber. Drives for Uber. 1 year after that, gets diagnosed with a horrible form of mesothelioma because he had worked in construction and was exposed to asbestosis. Still driving for Uber, working out 3 times a day, joins a gym for people with Parkinson's. I was just like, Mr. Cardi, I got to know, man, how do you have so much life when you have these two awful diagnoses coming towards you? And he was like, Gab, when I got the mesothelioma diagnosis, I knew it wasn't going to be a sprint to the finish line, but I knew I was going to do a hefty jog. And I was like, yes, because you still have life and you might not be able to sprint, but you're going for it, baby. The night before he died, he took an exercise walk with his dog. He is my hero in death. Like, he is why I'm like, life, baby. So I really try to take assessment of the people who've inspired me. And he loved my comedy maybe more than anyone. Like he supported me since I was like 14 years old. So yeah, I just feel like he is definitely a reason that I should be spreading this. And
I love that message. I do. And I think so maybe, pardon me, for those of us, if you look at our lives and say, oh, it's been too easy, maybe try to find examples around us. And that sounds like a perfect example. And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. No one should feel bad about, you're living your life. You haven't had horrible tragedy. Don't feel sorry. I don't think we should ever feel guilty or sorry for it.
oh,
But I think building up that resilience, sometimes seeing it in others can also be a good example so that when things happen to us and like even like I said, you remembering your words, you come up often when giving people grace was my thing before, and I'll think, oh, I think of Gab, and now I'm going to be thinking of the whole I can face this, because especially the idea, and I think we can all kind of relate to this, that because we've heard it so many times, and it is true, we can only control what we can control. And you said when we were talking before I hit the record, so that's what you're going to do. You're going to do what you can do because that's all you can anyway. And that is so true. Whether I read that same article about, the TikTok ban and I'm worrying about our freedom of expression being taken away or government control or reading something about fascism, I can read that. And then what do? Do I sit and mull or ruminate for an hour? Or do I sit and mull over it for maybe 10 minutes and then go, all right, Janine, how about doing some laughter yoga? How about getting to your work? Because doing your work also gets you income so that
right.
you can live. And it's a choice, but it's a great reminder. So I will be thinking of you again as I get those dark moments so that I can lift myself out of them.
And or can you write jokes about it too? And then like so you're raising awareness, but you're also keeping it light and funny, and you're doing everything you want to do with those things too. Yeah. It's really, yeah, I really yeah, I'm just enjoying I'm just trying to enjoy every day at this moment. Like I get too into it. Like I'll run into someone who hasn't seen me in a while and they're just like, wait, what? Hey, what's going on with you? And I'm like, I know, right? Like finally, only took like 3 decades. Therapy finally worked. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. But yeah, life's good. And I've never said that before in my life. I literally used to do bits about people who had life is good stickers on their car, and I would read them the F out. Like there was one I saw where the mom was an angel in heaven, and I just went insane about my dad in heaven and why life is not God. I mean, it was just like this rage Sam Kinison bit I used to do because I used to be angry all the time. I'm not anymore, and it's a blessing, and I'm really excited about it. So yeah, if I can get here, I believe my sister's always like, if you can get here, anyone can get here. She's like, but it's hard work. I mean, like even my therapist will say, like, I gave you worksheets and you did them every week. You came to therapy twice a week. You've never stopped working. Anything. I mean, I've had notebooks, therapy notebooks of my work that I do. Everything that has been asked of me, I've done it. So I mean, I take it very seriously. It's a job. A disability is a full-time job. So
But you're doing, because again, you could just sit, and I hate to say, you could sit and just say the life sucks and nothing's, no one likes me, or this or that, but you're not. You're taking the lead in this to make your life better.
yeah.
And it's working,
And
clearly.
it is
It's working.
working. And I've seen meet too many people who I relate to, and I'm like, hey, wait, all right, I want to show that, like, because I remember this in the early part of my career. Like, it was cooler to be mentally unhinged, right? Like, yeah, and then say these outrageous things, and like the way people loved me, but it was like, no, man, we're promoting staying sick and we're promoting this negative mentality. And I've even heard like comedians say, like, don't you just hate people who are happy all the time? You want to punch them in the face. I'm like, yeah, I used to be you. But let me tell you, slaying your demons, slaying those mental dragons, fighting for yourself, there's nothing cooler, man. And being happy is the coolest thing I've ever felt in my life. So, like, yeah, if you want to be in your 20s, be miserable, that's cool. That's not my vibe anymore. I'm on the other side of this, man. So I'm living in gratitude, and that's where I'm going to be, and that's where my comedy is going to be coming from. And yeah, and that's just where I am. And I know that everyone is full of parts, and that's helping me give people grace. You know what I mean? So even like think about it, like someone that you fundamentally would disagree with, like maybe someone, like honestly, I always say this, I defend Trump voters and people get so mad at me, but I'm just like, look, I'm not part of their family. I'm not part of their tax bracket. I don't know what they live in fear of. What part is activated? Did something horrible happen to them? And that's why they think they can control their kids, or don't let people be gay. They're going to save. I don't know. But I'm sure it's a lot more than just write them off and they're a bad fucking person. I don't think that, man. I think there's a whole lot to every single person. And when we take the time to like unpack, let them unpack, give them the grace to unpack, I think we're gonna have a better shot at some unity than this negative fighting and hating on each other. Doesn't work for me. That's just where I am. So I try to do the positivity, do comedy, do music, keep us all light, you know.
Yeah. I love what you're saying there. And I do agree with you because that's one thing, and not tooting my horn, but one thing that I am capable of is knowing that like it's not this or that. And we've talked about this before, like the cancel culture, the throwing away the baby with the bathwater, that like that's why I don't want to, like, on both sides are guilty of it, because I see people, like, I am a registered Democrat, but I feel like I don't want to call myself anything, liberal, progressive. I do feel I'm coming a little center with stuff though, because it's like, I don't care if you're on the right or the left and you say you hate this person just because they vote, you're wrong.
Yep.
If you're on the right or the left, you're wrong. And how could you not see that? Because if you're seeing it on the other side, but you don't see it in yourself, then you're not really looking hard enough. You know what I mean? So I agree with you on that fully. Like, of course, I have family and friends who vote differently than me. Does that mean I don't love them anymore? No, of course not. And I do think we need more of that dialogue. Like, it's funny. I had a conversation on Friday with a woman that we vote the same, but I thought she was more quote unquote progressive than me. And then we had this conversation about pronouns, about gender, about different things that are pretty like liberal. And I'm like, ooh, and she's younger than me. I'm like, wow, we're kind of on the same wavelength, and I would have never expected that. And
Yeah.
she's like, we're having this conversation. And I said to her, I think that's the problem. We need to have more of these conversations. And unfortunately, we're not doing that. And when you do look at something on the news or social media, you're getting a snippet. Snippets never tell the whole story. They're a part, like you just said, they're a part. So you're not getting the whole story.
Yeah, and the loudest voices on the internet are parts. They're not people in their essence. So like how can you have a conversation when it's, and that's another reason like I have walked away from politics very much so, because I find that both the extremists on the right, extremists on the left promote all of the vernacular and dialogue that is like anti improving your therapy, right? It's all this all or nothing thinking, all or nothing speaking, and that is not reality. And I have to be grounded, and I can't be a part of that. Like literally, I used to get in a fight with a friend of mine who would be like, no, all cops are bad. And I'd be like, okay, but three of my closest friends from the gym are homicide detectives who actually like have changed our city and saved babies. Stop it. Like, no, not all of them. I know these guys. They helped my sister move when she had nobody. They helped me when I had a stalker and they helped me. Like, no, we're not doing this. Like, you can't. Like, so I can't be a part of anyone who's talking crazy talk. And that's the extremists on both sides. So I just have to, God bless you all. I hope you stop screaming and actually vote. Hope you actually do the work instead of just trying to get, viral sensations on the internet. Like, I don't know how far you guys are from East Palestine, Ohio, but I did a bit the other day where I was just like, I think it's really interesting. I think there's so much popularity politics on the internet. I've seen more people from Pittsburgh post Free Palestine than Free East Palestine, which is 45 minutes from Pittsburgh. There was a train derailment that polluted the soil and the water. Kids are 2 years old and on breathing treatments. 40-year-olds have lung cancer, but we don't care. I guess it's only the river to the sea unless it's the Ohio River. And people are like, and I'm like, what did I say that wasn't true? I'm just saying, you don't care about your neighbors. You're more worried about a war that's been going on since 100 years before we were born. Enough. And it's just a really wild time. But, I also wanted to say this, though, about resilience. And just getting scared about Trump, right? We were talking about like fascism, and it could happen. It could happen. It happened before. There was a Holocaust. There were survivors. Think about the survivors of the Holocaust and the wisdom and the resilience that they have taught us. So even in my worst fear that we Americans are going to have to go through what Germany and Austria and everybody went through, there will be survivors. And they will tell our story, and we will be resilient, because people are resilient even in the worst crisis. We've seen it in global history. So as much as it's going to be horrible and we're going to have to go through it, people are going through it right now. They're going through it in Palestine. They're going through it in Haiti. They're going through it before. I mean, it's happening. So it's such an American, I think, thought to be like, because it's like, yeah, I think it'd be better to be ready for it. You know what I mean? I think it's better to be
Yeah.
like, okay, if this does happen, how am I
Yeah.
going to do this? Who am I going to look out for? What privilege do I have that I can help protect? You know, my sister and I always say that. We're like, the more like Roe v. Wade gets gone and the closer we get to not being able to have children, okay, well, we going to put money together and get a girl to a state that they need to get to. You know what I mean? Like, how do you, come on, like, how do you get through whatever bad is going to come your way? And that even includes politics. And I don't know. I know, I feel like I've had some positivity punch and I'm dangerous to be around because I'm letting everyone believe in themselves. But do it, man, do it. What else do you have to do?
No, it's so much better than, and that's why, to go back for a second to the conversation, I said Friday, why that's important is that I think when we realize we're more alike than apart, we can be stronger. So when shit does happen, it's like, wait a minute, what really does matter? Oh, we want to live our lives freely, but we want to, be able to take care of our loved ones. We want to live a good life where we have beautiful sunshine to enjoy. Like we want a lot of the same things. So let's come together to be strong and resilient, to your point. And I want to mention again, because I mentioned April is National Humor Month, that what you were just saying brings up someone I used to mention a lot. I haven't done like conferences in a while, but I used to talk about humor that was brought up or talked about by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, and he was a Holocaust survivor and a psychologist. And in his book, which I always say to people, it's not a light read. This is not something like pour yourself some wine in a bubble bath. Woo, fun night. No, it's certainly not that. It's not a beach read. It's heavy stuff. You're gonna think deeply because it's about his time in a concentration camp where he talked about you're wearing a threadbare clothing and you're out in the cold. You're doing hard labor. You don't know if you're next to go to a gas chamber. People have typhoid. You got all this stuff, and yet in his book, and it's not a huge part of the book, but it's still in there, he talks about, believe it or not, humor. And he said it was his, and I'm going to mangle the quote, but I'm paraphrasing, it was his sole source of self-preservation. So can you imagine? That's why I would often talk, and I don't want to, again, it's not to make people feel bad, but I use it for myself when I say, now imagine I'm driving on 81, I'm running late, so I'm bitching. I spill my coffee, so I'm bitching. A man in a concentration camp somehow found a way to use humor. And I think he even talks a little bit about with other people to try and help a couple people around him. How in the world am I not able to find humor in spilling coffee on myself or running late or even a monetary issue? If he was in a concentration camp and found it, and it was what saved his soul as he spoke.
That is amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and again, I don't say it because I know then you get some people might be turned off and going, well, good for him, or well, oh, that's terrible. Well, lucky for him, he could do it. But, and I get it. I get it. We do.
Depression. That's someone who's not
Yeah.
their essence taken over. So like, it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, you couldn't receive this today. So I get it.
Yeah. But I mean, I do get that because it's like, you don't want to be lectured. You don't want to think, well, okay, that guy could do it, whatever. But I guess it's just realizing, and that's the beauty I want to say about humor is it can, and it often does help us put things into perspective. And I want to follow up on something that you said earlier about like, so using humor to get through the crap, like, and you mentioned before, you used to be angry, or that was your comedy. That's not you anymore. So for me, and I don't want to become an angry comic, but so I don't consider it angry, but like we'll say I'm pissed and perimenopausal. That's kind of my thing. Like dealing with it. And I think to your point, and I think you said this too, I'm dealing with it, but we're also raising awareness, and someone else sitting in the audience might be dealing with it. So maybe if they're having a bad day, they go, oh, she gets it. They get it. Like, like I said, I joke about, I did 2 marathons, but yesterday I could barely get out of my sports bra without dislocating my shoulder practically. Like, but that's my way of dealing with, I'm like kidding, but not, because I literally have to bend over and do like the rag doll from yoga to peel the sports bra off. but I, it's my way of like, you know what, life, you're getting a little bit older, maybe not as flexible, or things that change. And if I don't laugh, what's the alternative? Like that is how we can use humor and laughter to kind of get through tough spots. And then what I want to say too, you mentioned, I want to talk about your album, and I want to talk about March 30th, which is just days away, is World Bipolar Day, correct?
Yes.
And to pull in something else you said about back in the day, the crazy was celebrated. Like in comedy, it's kind of, I want to parallel because the 30th is World Bipolar Day. Van Gogh is said, now we say that he probably or did have bipolar. But I want to make the point that much like you said about comedy, art was kind of that way, right? Like, oh, he was a genius. And you used to hear that a lot. There's insanity and genius, and they're just right next door to each other. They're so close, but it
Yep.
was almost romanticized and celebrated. And I was guilty of that because I was like, oh, he was this crazy artist, like it was a good thing. But the poor
Yep.
man did not get help that he needed. He had hallucinations, he was eating his paints, and yes, he did create absolute beauty and died in his early 30s. He sold one painting his whole life. His brother was probably the person that saved him up until that point, who helped him, believed in him. But to your point, it was romanticized. And you want to promote healthy stuff. So I
Yeah.
will zip it now and say, tell us all about your comedy album and what you're releasing that we can look forward to on the 30th.
So, okay, I'm like, first of all, happy to be alive. First time for that. Really excited to put this album out, and I never say that about anything I create, but it's really like this perfect example of my mental health comedy. So it's like advocacy, the whole album, everything I tie in, all the humor is like about my life and my story. So there's, stuff about being Italian American, stuff about working with kids, a lot, I mean, very many pieces about mental health, but I try to I have a lot about working out in my gym and people I've met from my gym. So I try to make it as almost as mainstream as it can be. There's only one time I said the F word on the whole thing, and it was during an ad lib where I was screaming at the guy in the booth. It's like a kind of a funny moment because I had two shows, and the second show, we had no tickets sold to the guy in the booth, and my producer were like, maybe you should just cancel it and not do the show. And so I just have like this rage fit on stage. We're like, they wanted me to effing quit. And then I'm like, but then you all came and it all worked out. Like, it's like, so I just I loved it because it just kind of showed the panic and the fear, and just, I love real moments. But yeah, it's a nice depiction of like storytelling. I tell some real interesting stories about my parents on it, mental health advocacy and comedy. I have no title for it yet. I have 37 tracks that I've yet to title, but on World Bipolar Day, I'm going to at least release, I think, 3 singles that all are about specifically my bipolar disorder, just for free, so you can listen to it, get an idea of what the album's going to sound like. It's so beautifully mastered by Jake Hanner from Pittsburgh. And yeah, I'm really, really excited. But it's going to be released officially on May 1st for Mental Health Month. And 25% of the proceeds are going to a nonprofit you may have heard of called the Humor Therapy Fund, which I've been a lucky recipient of twice, and it's been a blessing in my life. So I'd like to give back so that more programming can come to Scranton, PA. And then the other recipient would be Disability Pride PA, that just bring fun events that are accessible to everyone in Pennsylvania. And fun is my favorite thing in the world. So if I cannot help that organization, then what am I doing? And since this album isn't pure, it's not selfish art. You understand what I'm saying? There's advocacy in here. So that's why I wanted half the proceeds to go to stuff that isn't just for me. And my friends who are trying to help me with titles for the album are coming up with very triggering titles that I'm like, yes, if this were just for Gab and my art, we could do a triggering title, but I can't do that for this album. So that's part of the reason I'm struggling with titles, because I really want this to be as mainstream as Gab can get, I guess.
Wow. That's a lot. Okay.
I know.
So that's
Sorry,
a lot.
Janine.
No, I want people listening to know that I will definitely have a link from Gab when I get it. I will put it in the show notes so that you guys can check out the tracks that Gab is releasing for free for World Bipolar Day, which is awesome. But I also want to say thank you as the person who started the Humor Therapy Fund, and I kind of manage it. I want to say I am familiar with that fund, the Humor Therapy Fund, for folks listening. I created it out of my graduate project at Marywood University in 2006. And it was just this tiny little baby seed. And for years, we couldn't do, all we could do is fundraise. And by we, I mean me and people in the community, because it's something I don't want to be geek out here, but in case you want to start one, just so you understand, it's called donor advised, which means that if you believe in something like whether it's nature or whatever, and you say, I want to start raising money for this. Scranton Area Foundation is a wonderful resource here, not just in Scranton, but they cover like the greater Scranton area. They go beyond. They are phenomenal. You could start a fund with them. You raise money. They actually hold the money. And of course, it has to reach a certain point before you could start dispersing and with an annual grant. That's what I've been doing. But I started in 2006. It took a while before we had enough to start dispersing, but we've been doing that. And it's wonderful. And we've been able to, the whole goal or purpose why I started it, spread therapeutic laughter and humor, meaning have a purpose. What do you want to do for the community or for clients of your organization to help them therapeutically? So help a healing humor or laughter. So last year we were able to bring Gab into Northeast PA, and she was able to talk to folks in Honesdale using humor about her bipolar. A lot of people benefited who came out. Scranton Counseling Center, she was able to talk to. And while she was here, she was able to perform comedy with myself, Mary Ray Patch, and Paul Spratt, two other beautiful people who do great comedy as well. And this year, folks, Gab is coming back. So I will say first, she'll be here, not related to the Humor Therapy Fund. She'll be back here May 4th. John Malvisi Foundation and a leadership program in Wilkes-Barre is bringing Gab here as part of their mental health or mental wellness fair. It's a day of activity for free in Wilkes-Barre by the river. I will be talking more about that in the coming weeks, but that will be free May 4th. Vendors, laughter yoga I'll be doing, and then comedy in the evening. Again, Mary Ray Patch, Paul Spratt. We had such a great time last year. We're doing it again. Gab and myself. And then here's the other part 2 of the Humor Therapy Fund. We were able to bring Gab back again. In the summertime, she's going to be coming here with her business partner, performance partner, we could say, Josh, for the Josh and Gab show. They do it for kids to promote kindness in a humorous way. They're singing original songs at the Boys and Girls Club of Northeastern Pennsylvania here in Scranton. And I cannot wait to see that because that's a whole different side of Gab I haven't seen. I'll zip it now, but that is what the Humor Therapy Fund does. And I am so grateful. Thank you, Gab, for your donation. And Disability Pride PA, real quick, they do amazing work too. Vicky was on the podcast last year. She is the director. She's outside of Philadelphia, but they cover the whole state. In fact, Disability Pride is coming here, folks who are living in Northeast PA like me, to Pittston in June. And there'll be events in Allentown, Williamsport, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, all over. Another great organization. Okay, back to you, Gab.
Yeah, no. So I'm very excited because my last album was kind of a nightmare for me. So I'm really happy that I am in complete control of this one. And yeah, I'm really excited, really excited.
So what I do remember, you said your last one just didn't work like you
Oh,
wanted it to. It didn't come out like you wanted it to. You weren't happy. This one, I know you said you were very excited about as you were putting it together. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this isn't just comedy, right? There's music. There's like, it's a kind
there
of a
was
mix.
supposed to be more music. So originally I wanted to do a 2-album stand-up music because I have all these songs I've been writing. But my producer is in a band and he ended up traveling to South America and Europe. And so getting his studio time was becoming not gonna happen. So I had to make the call like, nope, we're just doing a comedy album. But I am putting one song. I did record one song, so it's gonna kind of be a bonus track, and it's about my godson. So it's more in the juvenile sweet side, but it's pretty adorable. And I think like even that gives a good idea of where I am now. Like, you know, because this album is still kind of in like the patient mode. Not that I'm not a patient, I'm a forever patient, but like I'm excited for my next album because it's going to be the more clear-headed, happy Gab, and I'm excited for that, you know. But this one is really important to me, and it's really the truth of my little journey and mental health. So yeah, I'm really excited. And the stories about my dad are hilarious, and I recite some of his poetry and stories about my mom, and I reference Scranton. I have a joke about coming back from Scranton and a very odd interaction I had at one of the events in Scranton. So I riff on that. Yeah, I'm just really excited. It sounds really good. Jake's incredible. And the last album, it was being produced by other people. So we had set a date for me to record it, and then they had already booked the release party. So there was no way of getting out of the recording. And it was right the week after my brother died. And I would have loved to not do an album when because you can just hear my voice. I'm like, I'm like, it's higher up. It's like a hummingbird, just fever pitch of someone and just not I was not my essence, So, and that album, I was so messed up. My mom and brother had just died. So I was like, let's just call it Everyone's Dead, a comedy album in parentheses. Can you, like, let me tell you, going to try to tour on that album. Hosts would be like, and this woman, she's headlining, she got a new album out. It's called Everyone's Dead. What? Oh, it's a comedy album, Gab Bonesso. Like the introduction were horrid. So I just don't want that for this one. I'm really like, I love that like the night before it comes out, I'm going to be up in Buffalo with my boys and I'm going to like at midnight, it'll be available that weekend. I'm with you. Like, I just feel like I'm having a big show in Pittsburgh on May 18th. It's going to go from like 7 p.m. till question mark. And I'm literally inviting everyone. If you wanted to come, anyone who's ever been nice to me in comedy, come and do a set. Like, it's just going to be a party of love and it's free. I'm not charging. Like, just come and have a good Gab comedy party festival one day only. Yeah, I'm just trying to make it fun, make life fun. We have enough non-fun in this world.
That is awesome. So when you are here, you're coming May 4th. So when you're here May 4th, you'll be able to give out, I think you'll have some info so that
Yeah.
people can get the album. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I'll have like QR codes or whatever. So if you prefer to get on iTunes, Bandcamp will be the best. Like, I'll start, like, as I'm setting up press releases and really promoting it, Bandcamp will be the best for all of us. So like for me to recoup the money in the album, for me to be able to donate to Janine, to donate to Vicky, Bandcamp is where you get the full value of the album. Like, the producer, in order for me to be on iTunes and all of these without a label, and I wanted to do this without a label because I wanted complete control. I'll get percentages. So I'll be getting like, so it won't be as much. We'll get more if people buy it from Bandcamp, which I will keep promoting. So
I was going to say, you give me that info because I totally
Okay.
get it. Because I had started that last year, the Buy Me a Coffee page. And I want to thank a couple folks who were on as guests who really appreciated it. And they gave me really nice, generous donations. And then I look at what Buy Me a Coffee takes and I'm like, holy crap. Like, it's a chunk. Like, I want to say it's like 20 to 30%. Like, and I was like, what and I didn't know that. And I mean, again, I am super grateful for the people who donated. They were being very kind and gracious and generous. It's just a shame that some of those platforms take so much. So to the point I just want to make is I will share the one where you will get the most benefit because that's how it should be. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a real bummer. But I do also, like, as someone with Apple Music, like, it's so easy. Like, my bandmate, he just put out his album and I'm like, Apple Music. But I'm going to go to the show and actually buy the vinyl. So then I know he's at least getting the money from that. But yeah, it's hard to support independent artists, but I love independent art the most because we're not being tainted by the powers that be and we can actually say what we want. And I think the more we encourage young people to be like, hey, I know you think it's cool to be Justin Bieber, but does he look happy? No. Why don't you do what you want to do? I'm telling you, I'm happy. Trust me. So I don't know. I try to also do that, promote, normalize like being poor, but like, because kids will be like, Gab, do you make a lot of money? I'm like, not at all. Do not. When Josh and I do shows, we split money that the PTO raised by selling cupcakes. So just take that in. Like, I mean, this is not, I bust my butt to live and be an artist, but it's worth it because I get to do what I love. So it's not like, I just know people who make way more money than me and they're so miserable. So I don't think I'm doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But
I love that
live-
you're saying that. Yeah. Because I say that too all the time. I'm like, I'm working poor. I tell people that all the time. And it's true. I mean, not like I'm proud of it, but like, it's also to normalize that, like, I think it's important too for kids, especially to hear from you that, like, you aren't all necessarily, if you wanted to be, if that's the path, you're not all necessarily going to be the next Taylor Swift or Justin Bieber, or like, I'm going to get on YouTube, someone's going to see my single and I'm going to blow up. Well, it's great if it happens, but it's not the norm. So be out there working and, like you said, be happy and making a difference and influencing people too. But you're not necessarily going to have a villa in, near Lake Como or whatever.
and I don't know that, like, I always think about me truly, like, I don't know that, like, that just doesn't seem good. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't feel like that's for me. Like, I don't want to be so famous that everyone is up in my business. One, two, that I don't actually have control over my art, my voice. I have to be so scared of what I'm going to lose at all times. And then the plastic surgery and the looking like non-real people part starts. So it's like, you wonder why people think they're all lizard people in Hollywood, because you look all the, you're weirdos, just be normal. And the other part of this is like, which I always have said from the beginning of doing this, like I think with a lot with stand-up too, like stand-up comedian or comics, I should say, like it is about fame. I mean, it's about getting that perfect joke. It's about the formula of comedy. It's not about the art of comedy. And for me, I'm trying to do an art. It's not about being famous. It's always about getting better at what I'm doing. And if that's my goal and I'm doing it, then I am the richest person in the world. So I don't know. The joy I feel in 2024, so I keep hitting the computer. The joy I feel in 2024, I feel like Ebenezer Scrooge on Christmas Day when he realizes he's still alive and he didn't miss Christmas. I feel like George Bailey when he realizes his lips bleeding and Zuzu's petals are in the pocket. Like I am just so happy I made it to this point that I am just, that's the energy I'm bringing to 2024. It's that George Bailey, Zuzu's petal energy every day.
So two things I want to say. Here's an advantage for anyone listening about not being famous. Also, I thought of this earlier in the week. So like if I ever Photoshop, right, people aren't going to be worried that I'm like kidnapped or something else, right? Like they're just going to go, oh, she's trying to like erase a couple of her chins or like the effects of perimenopause. They're not going to be like, oh no, I hope Janine isn't missing. Like, no, they're not going to worry to that degree. The other thing I want to say for folks listening and for you to know, because you mentioned about supporting independent artists, there is an awesome guy here who used to work for Apple, who now we are fortunate to have him back here in Northeastern Pennsylvania because he's from here. He's an entrepreneur who started an app I want you to check out called Showcase.
Okay.
It is specifically for independent artists. Right now it's music, but I ran into him, I want to say a month or so ago over coffee, and he said, hey, Janine, I want to let you know we're doing comedy next. So download his app Showcase. In fact, he had artists, I want to say it's, what's that cool festival? South by Southwest, or
Yeah.
is that how you say it? South by Southwest. So he had artists, and I've listened to some, and these are all independent to help them so they don't have to go to those other platforms.
Oh, wow.
And I've listened to a few artists. They're fantastic. So check out Showcase. His name is Dave Yeager. Like I said, he used to work for Apple. He came back to Northeast PA for a couple different reasons, and he launched this app Showcase, and it's fantastic. But he said comedy's next, so that's something to keep in mind.
That's awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Janine. Any help? This is the time of my life to any help I can get, please.
Yeah. Well, I love the vibe that you're giving off here, Gab, and I do love what you're saying. And obviously, like you said, you didn't get to this place overnight. You worked at it. You go to therapy. So for those folks listening, if you are struggling, first of all, of course, remember 988 is you can reach out if you need help feeling, obviously 911, but 988 is you can text, you can call, it is help, a lifeline, basically. But if you're not in that deep of a place or dark of a place, I should say, but you know that you're struggling and you need some help, reach out to, I know it's tough right now. I will admit mental health professionals, they're kind of and we're in need of them, basically, is what I want to say. So it might seem like it might be tough to get an appointment or something, but reach out, try to make the appointment, do your best. And remember, 988 is a lifeline. Also reach out to people who care, because know that you're not alone, no matter what. And to the other people on the other side of that, I want to reference someone that I mentioned before. I listened to a podcast called The Happiness Lab, and she had a gentleman on who, I forget his name right now, but he's British, and he has kind of launched a campaign through the years called Just Send the Text. And it's because he was feeling suicidal and sitting home. Someone who's a friend, a buddy, whatever, they're in London or Britain, somewhere in the United Kingdom, texted him and said something like literally just pub ? He just wanted to get together for a beer. And that text, he said, literally saved his life. Not because what it said was profound, but it was someone was thinking of him. And that gave him an opportunity. And he said, yeah, I'll meet you at the pub. He met him, and he says now to people, if you're sitting there going, oh, it's been too long, I don't know what to say. What would I say? Send the text. I personally go through this a lot where I'll be thinking of someone that I haven't talked to in a while, and I'm like, or they've lost a loved one, or I see something on social media where they're struggling. Geez, what will I say? It doesn't matter. Send the text. Let them know you're thinking of them. because guess what? You could, and I'm not trying to be dramatic, you could save their life. You could contribute to saving their life because they're like, holy shit, someone cares about me. So I want to say that as well. Gab, anything you'd want to add to that as we start to wrap up?
No, I loved all of that though. I have a friend who I've been kind of worried about, and I go the other way where I like now that I know that I have something, whether it's ADHD, autism, whatever, but like that's part of this energy, that it isn't always mania. I could be too much. And now I've had to really say to myself, it's okay to be too much if you're going to keep a friend alive. So I like bother this friend constantly that I was worried about. And like, it's better to err on the side of texting than being annoying. You know what I mean? I'd annoyingly keep my friend alive. That's okay. So yeah, to that point. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had a friend this past year who's really struggled, and I will admit I thought about her, and I thought about her for weeks before I sent the text. And I feel terrible because there's a little part of me that thought, what if she is no longer here? Like, and not to be dramatic, but I don't know, because she had a really bad bout with her bipolar, and it's like, and I did send the text. I sent her a picture because I know she likes nature. I sent her a picture. I was out for a walk. She did respond. Thanks for this. I'm not in a great place, but thank you for thinking of me. Thanks for the picture. Enjoy your walk. Another week or two went by, and I'm like, I'm going to check in with her. She said, I'm in a terrible place, but I appreciate you checking in. And I just said to her, I think of you often. I'll admit I'm never sure what the right words are. I know that I don't have them, but please know that I'm thinking of you and everything. And she said, it means more than you know. So and I'm not saying that about me to like, look at me. I'm just saying, whatever you do, especially if you know someone's struggling, if you know it, try and do, and like Gab's saying, annoyingly, that's fine,
Yeah,
because
we
it's
have
better
to.
to be the present that they get. Like, even if they just look at the phone and set it down, they
Yeah.
know they're being thought of.
Oh, and I want to say on the other end of it, that has meant a lot to me. There have been times where I didn't know I had burnout, but now that I know that, I'm like, oh, and now I can just explain that to people. But I would think I was depressed. Well, I think what happens is I get burnout and then depression jumps on. I think I have high energy and then mania is like, let's do this, baby. So I think I have it all. I think every doctor is right. I have all of these diagnoses, but I like sometimes I don't have it in me to answer the text, but the text actually makes me feel so less alone and know that I am. So I just want to say from the other side, yes, the texts really do help. They do. They do. They do. They do.
Yeah.
I actually have a track on this album, Janine, that goes against everything you're doing, where I talk about global warming helps my depression. And if you want to help me, don't text litter. So I'm so sorry. It literally goes against everything you do. But no, it's a joke, Janine. Get a sense of humor, Janine. Cancel me, Janine. I'm just kidding.
Okay, man. Now, I've been talking about a little bit about global warming, where I'm like, this is again trying to create humor out of make sense of the world. Like, I feel like we're all hypocrites, and probably nobody like, I'm cool with saying it because I've done hypocritical things. I still do, but it's like, talk about that, about irony, because we're all like, vote for politicians who will do something. Global warming is real. Climate change is real. Same people are like, woo! I get to put on my shorts in January. Okay, well.
Yep.
There's an irony there.
Yes, there is, because I'm like, I can live again. It's warm. And it's like, but it's January and why are the birdies here? This is bad. Why are there bees? Like, this is not right.
Yeah. I had that conversation with someone else recently. When we don't have a cold enough winter to kill certain things, you're going to get a lot of ticks in the spring and summer. You're going to get a lot of bugs. So keep in mind, while you're wearing your shorts and your Crocs or whatever in January in the East Coast, you're going to pay somehow.
Oh, lantern flies are going to be great this year. You can tell. And cicadas. It's like, yeah, it's for the apocalypse is this summer, gang, and I don't care. We can handle it.
And
Get
Gab's
bug
ready
spray.
for it.
Buy bug spray. You got this.
But don't litter, please.
No littering, guys. Really, it upsets Janine.
It upsets me. It should upset you too. Damn it.
Well, my whole life, whenever people litter, I've been nuts. Like in my bad days, I'd follow them and strive after them. But now my little godson and I, we just yell litter bugs, and then we go clean it up. So he like literally harasses people. Litter bug.
Oh, I love this kid now even more. Yes, yeah. Yes, be that voice. But do it safely.
he yells at adult, like I'll be like, buddy, no, we have to wait, look both ways before they cross the street, and then a grown man will just walk in front of a car, and he'll be like, hey, you're supposed to look both ways. You didn't do what's right. Aunt Gabby says, I'm like, stop it, stop it, stop it. I'm not his Aunt Gabby. Stop it. Oscar, please, I don't want to get in a fight right now, man.
Love this kid. Can you bring him to Scranton so he can yell at litter bugs?
We were going to bring him to Scranton. That was going to be part of it. So my sister was going to take him to the train museum while I was at the event. But his family is going on a trip that same weekend, so I can't. But if I could bring him in the summer, and Rose will come. I just need help. If I'm working, I need someone watching the kids. So yeah.
Well, I would love to meet him. Gab posts on Instagram with him, and he is adorable. And as you can imagine, they have a grand old time together. So
he's basically my best friend. What are you gonna do?
yeah. Well, I want to thank you as always, Gab. It's always a fun conversation for those folks listening. I always feel like you're getting like a lovely, fun amusement park ride with us because you never know what you're going to get. It's exciting. It's titillating. It's all over the place at times, but hopefully we've sparked something in you. Whether excitement, anger, delight, we don't want you to be sad. That's probably the last thing that we'd want.
Yeah. The one thing we don't want from you is sad, but
yeah.
If you want, we meet you there and we hear you and we validate you. You're allowed to be sad.
Yeah, that's and that's to your point. That is actually good to say. They what is the expression? It's okay not to be okay. And that is the truth too. Don't be down on yourself because I have those days too. I talk about it freely with my perimenopause where I'm like, this sucks. I feel so unproductive. I don't want to do anything. What's wrong with me? I literally say that probably 3, 4, 5 days a week. What's wrong with me? And then I do get through it, but I do that. And it's not good to judge your feelings. So feel them and that's okay. Just feel them.
Yeah. Because that was something I did for all these years with my grief. And now like when I have moments where I'm like, oh, I wish my mom were here. Or I miss Peppy. I miss my dad. And I'm like, yeah, I miss them. Like they were the best. Of course I miss them. Let's miss them for a little bit. Okay, now I can go on with my day instead of like, I used to be like, he's been dead this long. You don't get to miss people. And it's like, whoa, how did that help? It didn't. And now I'm still depressed. So like, yeah. Feel your feelings, baby. It's the best way. It is the best way.
Yes. Amen to that. All right. Well, thanks so much. So guys, check the show notes. I will have the link so that you can get the free tracks from Gab's album, her comedy album. And if you're around Northeastern Pennsylvania, and you will be hearing more about this in the coming weeks, I will have an episode with Nina. We'll talk about that mental wellness fair that will be free to the public in Wilkes-Barre, May 4th. Going to have vendors with lots of resources that could help. If not you, a family member, a friend, laughter yoga that I'll be leading. So if you want to try that out, a little bit of a lift or just watch from afar and laugh at me secretly, that's okay too. And then the comedy show with Mary, Paul, myself, and Gab. It's going to be a great time and it is free. And then you'll be able to check out a QR code to get Gab's full album then, which will be awesome. So, but again, we'll have more details about that coming up. Thank you again, Gab. Always a delight. Love seeing your face.
Thank you. Love you, Janine.
All right. So, folks, coming up, we've got some great stuff in April as well. It's Autism Awareness Month. So I've got Lindsay coming up who's going to talk about Parenting Autism United. We have literacy. We're going to be talking, I'm like, literacy. We're going to talk to Emily Hickox of Budget Through Life about actually a topic that I really didn't know too much about, but like, think we talk about domestic violence and abuse, but withholding funds and understanding like how people use that as a form of abuse is something that we're going to talk about as well. As we, in April, we also have some observances around domestic violence and Take Back the Night. So we're going to be talking about it from the stance of financial abuse or economic abuse. Emily will be on and lots of other great guests that I'm super excited to introduce you to in the coming weeks ahead. So check out the show notes for details. Follow Funny Wine Girl Janine on Instagram and Facebook, and follow Gab as well. She's all over the Insta and all that good stuff, and her link tree, and you can see all of her shows if you are in the Pittsburgh area, but she's also all over the place on that side of the state as well. So thank you guys so much. As I always say, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.